Today, we want to talk about uncertainty, ambiguity, and creative risk. What role does it play for you when you really come into situations that you cannot solve yourself? What can you do in your team by yourself to take some creative risk, maybe find some new solutions, and keep on working with your team?
But what is a blueprint? We will discover this today too.
Hi, my name is Marius. I'm a designer and I run a creative design studio with offices in Munich and Berlin. I have a background in psychology and education and like to discuss daily topics in our lives and work with Nick.
And I'm Nick. I'm a software developer. I work at a bank and make sure many millions of people can send money online every day. But also, I'm a freelancer, a creative person, and therefore this podcast is explicitly about that, about two digital creators who try to find the path into their career, to build something useful for people, to enrich people's life. Ambiguity, uncertainty, creative risks. I think these things happens oftentimes, especially if you are in creative business, somewhere where you need to create something new, somewhere where you don't know how to do it right away. It's not an administrative work where you have already a checklist of how to complete certain tasks. It's something that demands research, investigation, facing these unknowns and solving these issues there. This is an interesting topic because I think we both, Marius, work in the environment and in general in the world where ambiguity is a part of our routines.
Yeah.
Since we want to create better experience for people, we enter areas which are new. We have to, in my case, in the bank, align to new government regulations that nobody yet have implemented a solution for. So there are many things that occur. And I'm sure in your agency, ownership and business, there are huge amount of these moments where you have uncertainty and clarity. So could you share how it is at your side?
Yeah, I was very curious to discuss this topic with you today because I think most of us can see this like in daily work. The moment so many things are changing, a lot of situations are changing at work, at home, political landscape, lots of topics are different. So it feels like there's a lot of ambiguity and things are different each time you're trying to do a task. Lots of people recommend to have routines, but it's pretty hard to get into them. And I think if we look at it from our work side, when the question I think is when you feel good, like when you do good work, it's mostly in an environment where, it's okay, like you're safe, the task, you're able to do it. That's structured work where you feel like that's something you would like to do with the clients, with the team. And then things happen along the way. Like usually it's chaotic. There's stress. Maybe you have to take some risks. And I think that's what you just mentioned. Like, what do we have? So I think one thing I want to discuss with you today is like this loop that we could have of taking creative risks, finding some structure for those and not end up in chaos, instead of just having chaotic moments at work. We do have them too. Like there's projects we haven't done before. So things come up as we have at the moment. They tend to be chaotic. Nobody really knows what to do at the moment. We have to figure it out along the way. So they do happen, of course. And I think what really helps to change those for us, to have space to experiment and try out things that are not in client work. So for example, if you have a new project that you're working on, it gets more complex than it has been before. Instead of doing that task along the way while learning on a client project, what I really like to do is to have space to experiment. As we do, like we discussed it before with AI tools, we try new things, but also in projects that we go through these processes while trying them out, rather than doing them in the real project. So there's these two topics of creative risks in that testing phase and then the chaos in the projects. But yeah, how do you feel? You also mentioned quite a few topics.
Absolutely. I feel this oftentimes. People could think that working in the bank is kind of boring stuff and everything is legacy and everything is already invented and so. But in this case where I am, it's not true. We are like operating in a way that we are innovative. Our bank wants to compete on different levels with neobanks and so forth. And therefore, our designers and developers and any creative who is involved in the development process should take risks, should be in the environment where things are unclear, where you don't have all the requirements available for you.
Mm.
And therefore, this leads to a stress in general. But also, I think this leads us as humans to a progress. Being out of comfort zone emerges new things, new shapes, new formats, new tools, new ideas, and so forth. I think that you can easily stick to some comfort zone and try to be following your routines, your setup, your normal steps, and that's fine. But this doesn't lead to your personal progress, neither the progress of the environment, company, project, product. What are you working on, and where are you? And so we are in the business where creativity gives us joy, and I think being out of comfort zone is also a part of that, or of that play. Yeah. So I kind of don't struggle about that. I like this. Okay. I know that there are constraints. I know that we should deliver. We should provide the outcomes to our customers, clients, and so forth. We cannot play too much without getting to the result. But we should have a space, and we have space to do this. Yeah. And if I look at how I overcome these stressful situations when I'm out of comfort zone, I'm trying to do two things. One thing is to try to nail down, at least in my head, or better on the paper or in my Notion notebook, the outcome I want to achieve, some kind of goal, what it should be, what this definition of my goal should be in favor. I know, okay, actually, I reached that. I went there, I completed something like that. And I try not to be too strict there. So don't try to emphasize some perfection, but rather to just put some bullet points. Okay, my goal should look like this, and it should have this implemented, designed, researched or communicated. And then when I have a list, it's already, I think, reduces your stress, reduces your out of comfort moment, because you have some already vision farther. Okay, where you want to be, what it should be in this next phase, next level. And then the second thing, what I do is to try to structure the steps that I complete. And important that when I structure this, it doesn't matter which steps I do, because different tasks and jobs demand different steps. Important is that I'm time box the effort put into the steps. Since I don't know how much time this creative process might take to lead me to the goal, I want to time box my time I invest in that. In favor, I every day or every period of time have this space, as you said, because look, we can easily overplay. We are designers, we are creative people, developers. We could easily get into emotional state where we are too passionate about this research work, about this innovation, about playing with this new AI tooling that is available for us these days, without leading to the outcomes. Okay. But we need to deliver outcomes because that's what we paid for. That's what our customers pay us for. Therefore, time box these, let's say, playful moments where you are brainstorming, where you are exploring, where you are trying to get into these outcomes that you noted down with bullet points. Okay. And then you personally feel fulfilled anyway, because you decide, okay, I will take 2 hours today to brainstorm this new idea, So I take that and I brainstorm and I put my hands dirty, try to code some prototype, something like that, play with that, another tool, framework, library, whatever, to get into my outcomes, or at least a few bullet points to be checked. And okay, if I don't reach any of that, fine too, my 2 hours are over. Okay. I spent time fully being in creative mode. So I allowed myself to be there to do this. Okay. And then I continue doing my regular job to deliver the business value, because there are tasks that could be easier than this one. And then next day you plan another space for yourself for that, and you continue this way. And systematically giving this space for yourself will lead to accomplishing these outcomes, these bullet points that you put in place. And this is a structured way, as I see, how to tackle this creative risk.
Yeah, it's very interesting, because I think like in the space that you mentioned, it's a large company. You have ongoing business that's working. There's competitors. You want to improve. You want to innovate. And I think the time boxing solution is quite good. And I think looking at somebody who might be new to the job, or like for a junior person who just got into work, this is of course not so easy, because for you, like you have years, like decades even now of experience, that you know this approach can work for you. I think it's really good to look at that like something I really learned from you too over time, because I also like to be in this period. We also do a lot of innovation work, like we come up with new products, new ideas for the clients. We build prototypes very early where we don't yet have that business that you work in. So it's more of an open field, but of course there is also the question of how do we make value? How do we earn money? And we try to build that product. So in that period, I think even now, like before you went to school, you learned that process, you could apply it over years, decades to the job, but it feels like this is not happening anymore. And I think that's a very important topic that I wanted to pick up today. Like last week, I just read about this study, which we will link later in the notes, that now the content that you see online, around 50% is not created by humans anymore, which I think is a crazy number to think about. Over 50% is not written by a human alone anymore.
I will include a link to a chart diagram, which actually shows that the AI contents already is, I think, 60% over than the human contents. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's really like so important for me today, because I also thought about this the last few weeks. This means that before you had this approach of learning intellect at school, like learning content or gaining knowledge from written things, books, teachers. But now there is a new skill that nobody has ever learned really, because we have not been in this situation before, that over every second post you read, like just imagine, every like a product review, a post on a comment, whatever it is likely not created by a person, but by a bot or by an artificial project. And the more I think about this, like the less time I spend on social media, I like we discussed it last time, I think it's great to use it to be productive. But I think I spend way less time like looking at comments from bots or other things where I know they are not real. It takes a lot of time. And I think that skill is so important to think about, because it feels very unstable. It feels there is a lot of change in the projects or products. But if I look at the way that you just talked about work, the way you approach it, and the way we like to do it with this loop of experimentation, coming back to structure in projects, it works. Both of us, we work in companies, we have projects with clients, things are working quite well. So being able to discern this, I think it's not very easy. Even for me, it's really hard. I feel I struggle every day to like understand what's this, what's that. During work, I don't look at news anymore. I try to time box and really work in the 4-6 hours. So yeah, I'm curious to hear what you think, but I think that's a very new topic that hasn't been there before. Yeah.
First of all, the skill that we can smell AI generated content a mile away, it's already in place.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you open LinkedIn or any other social media and scroll, you could smell the AI content very quickly, and you naturally will skip it, will swipe it. Mm-hmm. So I cannot currently explain the psychological moment behind why our natural decision is to skip it. Mm-hmm. Okay. But it happens. Yeah. And we now, I think, value even more the human output. Mm-hmm. Okay. So since it become rare.
Yeah. 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 And I think sorry, please go on.
Yeah. And learning, what I see is that's true that information is now is generated. But look at this as well. For example, in programming, the large language models, they were trained on open source software. And open source software is in 90% or 95% is where developers cut corners because it's their hobby time mostly.
Interesting.
And therefore, they are oftentimes not writing any automation tests. They just put things in that hopefully works and so forth. And you understand that that's not a professional development. And therefore, in 95% of cases, not a professional care and craftsmanship is put into the output of this software. Now, AI learned on this and pretends to help you write good code. And this is very questionable because the AI knowledge is explicitly there on open source. But it lacks the professional development code to be trained on. So, therefore, I think output that we see now for programmers needs to be reviewed all the time. Otherwise, it's terrible code that it produces. Let's say like that. I cannot say anything about other niches where the AI learned from. But I believe it might be the same thing, Hopefully the AI learned from real books, from people who had experience to write something in these books. Hopefully. But if AI learned from the articles that are published in blog posts online and so forth, then again, mostly it's a hobby of people. It's a hobby of programmers to put something online. It's a hobby of designers to put some futuristic designs online, okay? These designs are mostly not put in place like professional, because you could distinguish to order a logo on Fiverr, which will cost you $10, and to order a logo, let's say, from Chris Daw, that will cost you, I don't know how. A fortune, yeah. So, the professionalism put into designing that thing, into designing the emotion through this logo is very different. Okay? Maybe therefore the price is also so different. So, therefore I'm not afraid, let's say, that anyhow AI will degrade at least my knowledge. Maybe juniors who come to the market and trust it so much, maybe their knowledge will be proportionally aligned to the quality of open source software or to the quality of the logos that hobby designers put online. Okay.
I think it's very interesting, really, because I think this question, a lot of us, I ask myself it very often when I go online. I look at something. At the moment, I'm very interested in what's a good workflow to work with. If you start a new project with a startup and they are currently in an exploration phase, or they have an idea how to build a product. Last time we talked about it with Sven, how he utilizes AI. So there's a lot of different approaches now, where before maybe it was user-centered design, or it was an agile process, agile lean development, whatever it was, that we had 4 or 5 ways of dealing with situations. Now it kind of feels like a lot of people can access this very easily. They can click some prompts and then they have a very basic version of something. And I think on the one side, if I look at students, like you mentioned, junior people, so we do teach UX, UI design. We also now teach AI basics. And if I look at the students there, it's incredible. Like for those people with no knowledge, if they can start to approach a project, like you mentioned, the time box, they do a project charter, they make a plan, and they execute on it. It's incredible. There's people who are maybe like 20 years old who have no experience. They are able to build an online application with OpenGL or 3D elements. It's awesome. It's great to see this. And I think over their development time, over those 3-4 semesters, in the beginning, they're like, I don't know how to code. I don't know what to do. I make these very cheap knockoff copies from something else. And I'm super happy. Click, boom, amazing. Like you always like to say. And over time, you see that they really try to create some value. They start to create some projects with some clients. And that's, I think, where like it's so interesting I'm very curious where this will go. Like there's so much slump now, how people call it on the internet, like AI stuff, 3D stuff, how it will evolve. Because I think if I look at this over time, like now everybody's creating, putting stuff online, you feel this ambiguity, this chaos, even though it's not really there, but you don't know. And over time, I'm curious to see where it will go. So yeah, I think that the craft that we learned, most of us, if you listen, maybe you play music or you do sports or whatever it is. And this is where we also get so excited when we talk about some passionate things. You try out, like you go running, maybe you fail, maybe you play some music, you start to like just interpret something or like real free and do stuff. And then you're like, oh, there's a nice melody. I like to evaluate on this. Like I try to do it in a different way. So you just go, crazy and try stuff. It's like this nice time that you just mentioned before. And over time you build from this. So maybe it's just a neat tool. And what we do is being in this experimentation phase with AI, but everybody is feeling the breaks while running or like hearing the really bad melodies that we experiment on. I don't know. But it's just on such a big scale that I think it influences this ambiguity everybody is feeling. Maybe that's a way to see it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Almost every episode we talk about AI because that's already a part of our life.
Yeah, exactly. I always try to avoid, but we always come back to it.
It cannot be changed anymore. I mean, it's part of our work life everywhere. It's involved everywhere. What I think will happen is the same what happens with any new thing, new adoption. First, it will be a lot of crap, a lot of cluttered content out, published, created. Projects will be terrible, bad, failing. Experience of the users on the internet will drop.
Yeah.
But then people will realize that they should learn how to use it, and they will learn and they will adopt and they will find the best edges of this, how to enhance yourself, your skills, your vision with AI. And then it will go up. The quality will be even better. So we will be in a new age of technology, of innovation and so forth. But first we need to experience this clutter and there's a lot of trash contents that you see online and probably therefore you skip social networks. Meanwhile. So this is what I think will happen because the same pattern happens with any innovation, any very new thing. Remember the Photoshop appeared. We started to design UIs there. Then there was, correct me if I'm wrong, was SketchUp, something like this, right? So designers jump on that, and SketchUp already in certain format allowed you to convert it into the code, to export it in the code, right?
Yes.
Some designers started to think how to adopt and build some design system inside already so they can reuse components in next designs they put, Then Figma arrived with even more advanced level of usage, I don't know exactly all the details, but there are so many features that are useful that even helps you to create a prototypes, like publish a prototypes where you can click on screen from screen to screen, happens this or this, even some logic involved. And so you could clearly demo the whole product already with just one design tool, So this evolution is fine, and that's actually for a progress of the world. People are trying to improve and learn AI in certain way, learn prompting, learn whatever it takes to have a quality output. And this will happen. It happens for me slowly but surely. So within a few years, we will be better designers, better developers, because the time we need to produce the business value will be shorter, since there will be new tool, this AI in general, that will accompany us. Important is that we still there, that we build that we guide the AI. So AI extends the human, not the opposite. Yes. Otherwise, at least for now, and probably for next 5 or even more years, AI is not ready to alone lead this world. Yeah. That's what I mean.
Totally. I think that's a really nice, positive way of looking at this. I really like the topics you mentioned, the examples you mentioned. It's a very short period of time. I mean, let's just go back like 10 years, 2015 or 10, when Photoshop was still there. We used it. It's slowly transitioned to Sketch. It was such a big pain. Like, you had to export PNG files in different sizes, get them over. There were tools like Zeppelin where you can then take out the assets and so on and so on. It was a long process. And jumping now to 25, we have tools like Lovable, V0, where you can really, like even the step from Figma you mentioned is already very extensive and it's a great tool and slowly kind of like converges together with developments into one tool. Where now we have a project where there is a front-end developer working with one of our designers in V0. And she is like slowly starting to build very, not so very well done prototypes, but they kind of work. She doesn't have to create components. AI does it step by step. It's great. And then the developer takes over to clean up, make good code, good front end, connects to the back end. But I think that's a really nice way of looking at it. And if you see all the progress that's there, it's, on the other hand, like before we said, it's kind of crazy. There is so much copy content or trash up there. On the other hand, if you look at all those developments, it's pretty amazing that they can happen now. In robotics, medicine, all the topics we discussed before. So I think for design, like you mentioned before, what does it mean now for work, or how does it look like for us as an agency when we are in this ambiguity? We have this moment of stress. We do have it right now in a project. It happens off and on. And I think discussing these topics are good. Like it's nice we have these conversations in between to discuss them. So in those, I think it's really good to learn the skill to be very fluid, to be able to change your mind about things. Because I think if you keep on trying to adapt your worldview that you had, your perspective from uni or from the last 15 years, it's not going to work out anymore. It's not going to work. Like you would try to figure out a monster task, but you don't have the tools. And I think if you try to use those new tools in ways that you give yourself time to experiment, even though you think it might be counterintuitive because you take off time from your free time or from your work time, like you said, maybe it's 1 hour, 2 hours, you stop it. But maybe you learned how to create 3D renders now for your project with Weave or any other tool. Amazing. Like now you don't have to spend another 15 hours in Blender to create this first draft. You can just create it with the new tool. That will save you not only the 15 hours for this one project, but everybody in your team who's creating those assets another 15 hours. So maybe in 1 week, you've already saved 45 hours. And I think that's a good way to look at it. Going away from the chaos, looking what's the issue, spend some time with creative risk, take risk, try things out. Maybe you find a new melody, maybe you find new ways to train, whatever, just as a metaphor. But I think this could be really helpful to get out of this chaos or this felt chaos.
I agree. As you mentioned, we need to also focus on the business as well, because it is very easy to start playing with AI tools that are widely available and just spend the whole day on that without any business impact. Just you will have fun. Okay.
Yeah.
The point is to integrate this activity into your daily work so you could balance between delivering the value for your customers and investigating, exploring new things, still having fun. And especially useful, what I mentioned at the beginning, if you set up your goal or some kind of expected outcome, then your joyful play with the tool or with the thing turns out to some progress. Could save even time, as you just mentioned, for your company, for your project, or for yourself if something is done on a personal level.
Yeah.
So this we should not forget, the discipline. Okay. Otherwise, the internet leads us so easily to being interrupted from continue working on the job.
Yes.
And just play with all the broad set of tools that is available and opening almost every week.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, at least I approach it this way. And back to this ambiguity moment or unclarity moment, which you have at work, you for sure will have a task and stories at work where you cannot know how to solve certain thing. And then the idea is to make sure that you plan this, like you will, that you have a project, there will be one task or two or three that are full of ambiguity. So there will be 10 others that you already did before. you know how to achieve more or less, okay? So you balance there, you spend some time on these ambiguity tasks, so you don't have a pressure to deliver them first. You could plan their delivery within time because you know that they might require a lot of time and research and experimenting to achieve. Therefore, you try to, within a day, to complete some of the tasks that are more or less known to you, plus spend time regularly, systematically on these tasks, which has a lot of ambiguity. Yeah. And also, what I find helpful with these tasks with ambiguity, with unclarity, is to continuously share your expected outcomes. So the problem you have and the outcome you want to achieve with a team. So plus you retrospectively also share your investigation or experimentation that you did today with a team, because a team might also have different experience already with the current set of tooling available. They maybe have some other project somewhere or used to have where they solved similar thing. And this awareness that you create about the problem you try to solve and how you approach it step by step every day gives them an opportunity to actually recall that they already did something and give you some useful feedback that will help you. So this might be a tips, this might be some clues, some general feedback about something. So don't stay in a solo and silent, but share what you do. It's like if you have dailies at work or whatever, if yesterday you did such a 2 hours deep work on exploring new thing, how to achieve a certain unclear task that demands creativity, you share that. You share what you explored, what you tried, what you want to come to with a team in a short few sentences. This gives an opportunity for everybody. So you kind of keep inclusion for that, giving everyone awareness and opportunity to help you out. And believe me or not, but this works because people are smart. People try different things. There is a diversity involved in your work. Don't believe that everybody is a copy of you. They are very different. And therefore, this difference might play a significant role on achieving your task.
Really, on this one, I couldn't agree more. It's so important. And it happens so fast, like you mentioned, you go solo, you feel like it's an unresolvable issue. Like it's such a big topic, you can't solve it. You don't know how, which is true for yourself. But even speaking out loud about it in a team with your friends, family, it's so much better. You share it. And there's maybe somebody who's a senior who has counted this issue before, who can help you find a solution, can see it from different angles. So I think in that term, like having a team, I appreciate it so much. Like switching from freelance that I did in the beginning, having to tackle with everything myself, like from everything from A to Z, now to work in a team, we can discuss things, we are friends, we talk about stuff. It's so helpful. And I think, one of great skills to have when you run into this situation.
Yeah. So a good team helps you to resolve uncertainty faster, helps you to overcome the creative risk faster, I think, just because of diversified wisdom that you as a one team have.
Yeah. And when we look at all of these things that you just mentioned, at the situations where some things are really marketed right now or hyped, but there's one people company making 1 year annually revenue, like all these maybe even made up situations, there's a lot of factors that don't happen. That person might be alone, never talks about things really as they are online. Maybe there is even a team behind them, but they don't talk about it. And I think these are all strengths you can really use. Like usually people work in teams. If you're a freelancer, you can talk to friends who have similar issues. So I think make use of that. That's it's so much more fun too, Yeah.
Absolutely. And I want to stick our previous episode about that everybody lies just here, because what people say a solo person did $1 million revenue in 1 month, very probably that's lies. And we talk about this case already in a previous discussion.
Yes.
Okay.
So I mean, takeaway for me today, again, it's good. We discussed this. We just had the situation together, which is nice. Thanks for the conversation. On the other hand, I think really it's very good to talk about these things. Don't stay in your bubble by yourself. Try to solve everything yourself. If you run into this uncertainty, ambiguity, take some risk, try things out, take some time to experiment. Maybe it's even doing good to you. Talk to other friends. I can definitely say, we both can say, this is helping.
Totally. And here is a blueprint from our conversation today. You will have ambiguity, you will have uncertainty, you will have tasks that you don't know how to solve at work. And to do that, allocate a specific time for this creative, playful work. Define some outcomes, what you want to achieve. And third, continue sharing awareness about your research, about what you do and what you accomplished and what you want to do, like a problem, with your team. These three things will help you out and speed up to solve this task, which is hard to solve initially.